just want to get right down to business because I haven't made soap in a long time because of the holidays, and I'm ready to get back at it. I hope you guys had a great holiday too. Today I'm going to be making a soap called Alchemy, and has to do with the 4 elements of ancient times. So I'm going to be using a divider in the mold to separate some of the areas of this. But I'm also going to show you how I worked out the colors using watercolors first on a piece of paper, and that might be helpful. I'll be talking about some color as I do that. So I'm scenting this with a scent called Animalistic from Nature's Garden. It smells really good, sort of unisex, but guys have been buying my soap, and one of my friends really liked the idea of the 4 elements as a kind of guy soap. So let's get started right away. So I'm going to start to plan out the idea of how I'm going to color the soap called Alchemy. And I've made a soap like this before, but for demonstration purposes, for all those people that had questions about color, using watercolors is much more forgiving than committing the idea to soap, because so much of that happens so quickly you don't really have time to think. But with watercolor, if you make a mistake, you can just start another page and try it all over again until you get it the way you want to. It's a lot less expensive than all those soap ingredients. So I'll show you I always try to keep a sliver of my previous soap. So this is basically what I'm going to do. This bottom portion is earth. Then there's water right next door. There's going to be 2 different kinds of blue in this soap design, and I want to have some swirls with the earth. It's going to have blues and greens. So I'm trying to work quickly with watercolor, and many times with watercolor you have to let colors dry before you work with the next, because they'll really bleed into each other. So I'm leaving some white gaps in this blue to keep the green more pure. And I think basically what I'm going to be doing on the soap is I'm going to be doing in the pot swirls, because there's so many colors to consider in this one. If I tried fancier swirls in each of these quadrants, I'm not going to have enough time to get it in there before the soap starts to saponify. So I think that this brown is almost dry, but as I let that dry, I'll get the other colors in there. It's like a base color that I want to dry first. And I'm leaving a little bit of white sliver right along this edge, so that when I put the next color in there, it's not going to bleed into it. So this is fire, this red area. Represents fire. And there's something else I can do to sort of replicate the idea of the blending and the mixing and swirling. I'm just going to do a process called wet on wet. So I'm going to just do a thinner solution of the red and leave it a little wet, and then work the orange into it. And I'm going to make the orange a little thicker, so it does a natural kind of blending there. And this sort of represents the way that soap is. It's just, it does really want what it wants to do. So if I work wet on wet in watercolors, the blending and bleeding that it does is pretty much up to the paint. You relinquish some of the control as long as you know the properties of your paints. You know when to let go and plan some things and allow some happy accidents to occur. So that's going to be the red area that represents fire. And the last part is air. And that's going to be a lighter blue. So I don't have a light blue, I don't have even white watercolors, so I'm going to just water down that paint. And you can see it looks lighter than my other blue because there's more water in it. And since I don't have white paint, I'm just going to leave some of the raw paper there to represent that. So I'm just really planning things out. This is not going to be a work of art by any means. It's just a planning. Just planning for the design. And this is going to be, this represents an in the pot swirl with brown and black. It's got a hard edge to it, so I'm just going in with basically a wet brush to soften those edges. Get it wet, then go back with some brown. It's a little too dark. And basically wetting it down on the paper itself. Alright, so luckily, like I said, here's the air, clouds, you might think of vapors, fire, water, and earth. The heavier elements are on the bottom, and the lighter elements, the air and the fire, are up above. And it worked out great because if there were two blues together, they would practically merge. So these are things I'm thinking of when I do my planning on paper, or if I know better when I'm going into the soap making, that these are only connected by this little area diagonally. So the blues are not exactly right next to each other as the blue and the red are up here. So that's my idea, and I'm going to do probably a red and blue mantra swirl on the top, and mantra swirl I think works with the idea of alchemy and the elements and all. So not the most beautiful composition or paint job in the world, but again, I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to get a look at my basic plan. Put the green in. Sort of arbitrarily decided that earth was going to be a combination of blue and this green. And there you go. So we'll see how this carries through in the soap making process, and I'm going to start that now. Okay, can't wait to use my brand new blender too today. So it's a first, and you get to see it in action first. The brand of Vibrant soap, the main color I keep noticing is turquoise, so that's why I decided to go for a turquoise blender. Just want to emulsify. That should do it. Got a lot to do with color too, so I'm hoping it doesn't accelerate. Okay, I'll be right back. So again, the first thing I'm going to do is to situate my mold like this, and I'm going to get the black poured in from high up and then close up. Get that in there. Do 1, 2, 3 swirls and pour that in. It's a nice earthy color to represent earth as one of the 4 elements. The next thing is going to be the darker blue and the green. to get bubbles out of that too. This combination represents Earth, and I added some titanium dioxide to this green because I wanted contrast, even though they're both kind of versions of green. If I didn't lighten one up and make sure the other one was dark, then they would blend together too much. So 1, 2, that goes right there. And that's pretty evenly matched. I'm going to pound this down. These are hardening up, but I think a work with the blender will soften it up. Yeah, that's going to work. Give that a stir with my new spatula. Give that a spin too. And making sure I look at my diagram here. So that same thing that you saw me work on is going to help me remember that the red and orange go on top of the blue and green area. And it's going to be okay if it sinks in a little bit. Keep some of that. We're doing well here. So you'll see how hard that looks, like it's getting too hard to work with, but as soon as I use the blender on it, it tends to be okay. So that's liquefied. And this one. Similarly, with the contrast that I wanted in the other colors, I really wanted to make sure that the light blue wasn't so light that the white had no contrast with it at all. So I think this is going to work. This represents sky or air. I'm going to keep some of that white for the top too, because I like a light top. Okay, let's get this in. It's pouring really nicely. I can see there's some nice swirls in there. And I'm going to just pour until it looks like it's even with the top of the other red side. Pound that down. And I'm ready to pull this out. Okay, so now I have this blue, and it wouldn't make any sense for me to pour the blue right on top of the blue because I want to differentiate the top a bit. So that's going to go right on top of this red area. And I'm going to attempt a mantra swirl on top. You other soapers out there, let me know after you've taken a little bit of a rest from soaping, do you get a little nervous too getting back into it, like you're going to forget something or something's going to harden up on you? I always feel that way. Okay, then I'm going to get some red on top of this blue area. I think this is going to look very different from the first time I did my soap that I called Elements. Let's see, do I have enough orange? May as well get it in there, maybe in little dots on the blue, since they are opposite colors. It'll contrast nicely. And I've got a little bit more red. And I'm going to pound that down. That's a little bit better. I'm not going very deep in this because I don't want to disturb what I did down below. Okay, so there it is. That's a soap called The Elements, and I can't wait to cut into it. So I'll see you next time for the cutting video. Thanks for watching. Bye.